All right, I'm gonna read Experiment 8. I've already read it. I'm prepping them now. I read ahead of time to see if I really should read it on video. And it's called the 101 Dalmatians Principle. You are connected to everything and everyone else in the universe. I am because we are. Tenet of the South African philosophy known as Ubuntu. Ubuntu is also a name of something that Michael Tellinger is doing. If you type in Michael Tellinger, Tellinger, and Michael is Michael, and type in Ubuntu on YouTube, Ubuntu. He's given some very good talks about a money-free world, like the stuff that I talked to you about before. There are a couple things about him that I dislike, but I would say I'm 80% with him. So, if we're 80%, I'm hoping we're at least 70%. Let's put it that way. But anyway, this is really good. I am so doing this experiment. I've already started it a little bit. This is a really, really good experiment that you can really test to see if it really works. And if it doesn't work in 48 hours, I'm going to give it another 48. Because I'm 99% certain that this does work. And if it does, that means it's real magic. I don't care what these people talk that there is no, this is real magic. I think David Copperfield did do some real magic sometimes, but most likely it was just a trick and he fooled me. And we've seen the magician who came on and exposed, how they really do this. And people didn't like him for doing that. The masked magician or something like that his name is. This is real magic. If this works, and I'm pretty certain it does, oh my God, it's like we should be doing this. We should be doing this. But just wait to hear this stuff. Really, I'm really impressed with what I read here. And yes, I'm wearing my Phoenix shirt. I needed to get back in my game room here and get out of that other room. I don't know why. Just felt like I should. All right, the premise. In this experiment, you'll prove that you are interconnected with everyone and everything. I don't think I can prove that, but we are at least connected to those we've made contact with. She recommends that the person you try to message, that you've at least shaken hands with them. She says we're all connected, but to start, you should choose someone you've shaken hands with. So, for all of you out there who I'd like to send a message to, what can I do? Well, I kind of did, but we'll see if it does anything. I don't want to say that. Better not say anymore. It's nothing bad. Don't worry. No, I'm just messing with you. All right. And even though it's one of the signature concepts of quantum mechanics, non-locality, along with its cousin, entanglement, if we shake hands, we are now entangled forever. That's basically what she said. And even though it's one of the signature concepts, it has incited much head scratching over the last 300 years, starting with Sir Isaac Newton, who considered what he called action at a distance ludicrous, despite the fact that his own theory of gravity had proposed just such a phenomenon. To be brief, non-locality is when two particles behave synchronously with no intermediary. I saw something on TV once where they said some particle rotated and something on the other side of the universe rotated. I'm like, well, first of all, how would you do that test? But it was bizarre. But anyway, but it doesn't make logical sense, right? If you want to move, say, an abandoned shoe in the middle of the floor, you have to touch the shoe or touch a broom that touches the shoe, or instruct your 5-year-old, the one who left it there, to pick it up via bright vibrations through the air to his ear. Things can only affect things that are in the immediate vicinity. There has to be a sequence, a chain of events. We believe that we can only alter things we can touch. But that's not the case. We've now got a demonstrably more accurate model that proves that one object, without being anywhere near a second object, can influence the second object. Unfortunately, most of us still persist in hanging on to the old chain of events worldview, even though physicists have demonstrated time and time again that once an atom has been in the proximity of another atom, it will be influenced or entangled by that atom no matter how far away it travels. Right, but then we're not all connected unless we got connected at some point. Then the distance doesn't matter. See, that's that's the question. Am I connected to everything in the universe because we're all connected? But other than that, I agree with this. Once an atom has been in the proximity of another atom, it will be influenced or entangled by that atom no matter how far away it travels. Even Einstein couldn't bring himself to fully embrace this counterintuitive concept. An even weirder conundrum is that once the atoms have interacted, they're entangled forever. We have even proved that non-locality and entanglement work on bigger things, like humans. In 1978, well, I hope they work on humans or this test is pointless. In 1978, Dr. Jacobo Grinberg Zeilberbaum, right, of the National Autonomous University of Mexico, later replicated by London neuropsychiatrist Peter Fenwick, I gotta get a little closer here. Hooked two test subjects to electroencephalographs in isolated rooms. The brainwave pattern produced by a series of strobe lights in one of the subject's eyes appeared identically on the other test subject's EEG, even though he was nowhere near the same flashes. That's wild. Though non-locality doesn't make sense to our Newtonian brains, we can still use it to our advantage. Like your computer that is hooked up via the internet to an infinite amount of information. You, by virtue of being a human being, are hooked up to everyone else in the world. Yeah, through the internet, that would make sense. Okay. Sometimes, when I want to communicate to someone in another part of the world, I whisper my message to the giant oak tree in my front yard. Oh, I gotta try this. Needless to say, trees, like the dogs in 101 Dalmatians, are interconnected. And the oak can easily send messages to a palm tree in a friend's yard in California through the concept of non-locality. In this experiment, you're going to use non-locality to send a message to someone from a distance, someone you will not see or talk to. Oh my God. That sinking feeling, it is all about love and how we all are connected. You know who said that? Mark Wahlberg, American actor, for those of you who don't know. Okay. This is cool. This is neat. I like this. When my daughter was in junior high school, she began answering every question with the same reply. 222 or 222 or 222. It just says 222. I added that. If someone asked what time it was, she'd say 2:22, even when it was 5:43. If someone wondered how much it costs for a lunchroom carton of milk, again, she'd answer with $2.22. Now she put the dollar sign. Her friends got a big kick out of it and started calling her at exactly 2:22 every afternoon. She even started a Facebook fan page called The Amazingly Awesomeness of 222. As I said, she was in junior high. That same summer, we took 2 trips. On both of these trips, with no input or planning on my part, We ended up staying in room 222 of our hotels, one in Seattle after we missed our connection to Juneau, and the other in London's Langham Hotel, located across from the BBC headquarters. Wow. That's cool. Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung called events like these synchronicity, the simultaneous occurrence of two meaningful but not casually connected events. Some people view coincidences like these as amusing anomalies spit out by the random event generator, arguably that it's only inevitable that eventually events from column A will match with those from column B. Not like that. In this experiment, you're going to permit yourself to suppose that synchronistic events are not the result of the law of averages or outright delusion, but rather valid products of non-locality and entanglement. In fact, in his book, Prometheus Rising, Robert Anton Wilson claims that even contemplating these issues usually triggers Jungian synchronicities. Carl Jung, Jungian synchronicities. See how long after reading this chapter you encounter an amazing coincidence. Oh, I'm going to be looking, Pam. Don't worry. If you have any great stories, by all means, send them to me via my website, www.pamgrout.com. Pamgrout, for those of you who don't know. As just in case something happens and you want to send her an email. As Wilson loved to point out, boy, she must get a ton of emails, the fabric of the universe doesn't play by human rules. In fact, let's let him explain the theorem of non-locality put forth in the 1960s by theorist John S. Bell. It was Bell's now famous theorem that led to actual experiments that conclusively proved the non-locale quantum nature of the world. Bell's theorem is highly technical, but in no ordinary language it amounts to this. There are no isolated systems. Every particle in the universe is in instantaneous, parentheses, faster than light, communication with every other particle. The whole system, even the parts that are separated by cosmic distances, functions as a whole system. Now, how in the world could he prove that? I'd love to see that. But if anyone knows where we can watch this, like, is this on YouTube? I guess it must be, because everything's on YouTube, just like everything's on Google. The two alien beings that are taking over our planet, YouTube and Google. Anyway, after this experiment, and Facebook, of course. After this experiment, you'll discover that synchronicity, a phenomenon people regularly shrug off with a, wow, what a weird coincidence, is nothing but experimental proof of the interconnectedness of all things. You know, if this is being proven, we should be changing the world now. How can you let anyone live in poverty? How could you go to war with anyone if this is true? And I believe this is true. And I'll never understand how we can get people to actually go to war. The people in the military. You should be there to defend this country only. Unless, of course, we're attacked, and then you have to, then that might be an exception there, that then you retaliate. But even that, anyway, back to this. Everything that doesn't look like love is smoke and mirrors. That's the next section here. We can slice and dice it any way we like, but we cannot justify turning our face away from this evidence. Larry Dossey, MD, American physician and author. I assume he's talking about what we're talking about. In 1972, at the annual convention of the American Association for the Advancement of Science, a meteorologist named Edward Lorenz introduced a brand new term into the American vernacular. Ooh, the butterfly effect. Yeah, I forgot this is in here too. Into the American vernacular, period. The butterfly effect was his observation that an event as seemingly insignificant as the flapping of a butterfly's wings in Brazil could set off a hurricane in Texas. That was a really cool movie, but I don't remember if I've seen it or I just think I've seen it. And I don't know if that has something to do with the name of the movie and what it's about, but I know it's a real cool movie. I just don't remember if I've seen it, which is weird. All right. In other words, Small, almost imperceptible things can have large and momentous consequences. The cool thing about this experiment is that you can use it to draw love into your life. Okay. You can use it, I'm hoping that's true. You can use it to brighten the world. Yeah, well, when you generate uplifting thoughts about someone, it contributes favorably to his or her energy. Gee, so that's what we should all be doing right now for some particular horrible, awful person in the world? Yeah, that's going to be tricky to get people to do that, including me. Conversely, when you judge others, even if you keep it to yourself, you affect their energy and weigh down the quality of your interactions. Yeah, I'm doing it to myself. Okay. You can literally uplift your world by lasering love, blessings, peace, and other high-frequency emotions to the people in your life. As it says in A Course of Miracles, you are being blessed by every beneficent thought of any of your brothers anywhere. There's a story about a protester who was outside the Military School of America taking a silent stand against the policies of the United, she meant to say states, it says state, they missed the S, and its bullying behavior. Someone asked him, what makes you think holding that little candle is going to have any effect on these governments? They've been doing what they do for decades now. He replied, I'm not worried about changing them. I don't want my country to change me. Yeah, that's good. Your thoughts about other people can change you. Okay. Is it really, is it really possible in this us versus them world that we, as this energy principle states, are really one? Well, to be blunt, yeah. We're all in this together. Yeah, and that is the Democratic Party's motto. Too bad they don't practice what they preach. But at least they're better than the Republicans. And every time we judge or think anything less than charitable about anyone, we crucify ourselves. We inflict self-pain. Yeah, this became real clear to me when I first got into meditation, and as I've said numerous times now, lived in a state of bliss for a month. I realized that all those negative thoughts that I had and all the negative things that I said about people were only hurting me, and apparently hurting them too. And there was literally no reason to have any negative thoughts ever, because all that's doing is, it's like eating poison. Why would you eat poison? And I just stopped doing it. But then I fell back into these patterns, and getting out of them is it's so weird because it wasn't hard. It just happened. I didn't go, I'm gonna stop thinking negatively now. I didn't even try to do it. I just listened to the meditation, and all of a sudden it just worked, and I just kept listening to it. So I don't know. So far, just listening to it once has made a difference. I got to listen to it every day, and I didn't listen to it this morning. And I'm not sure why. Maybe I'll listen to it later today. But I'm going to be playing Wyvern with a friend, and we might even make a video of that. So we'll see. Maybe it'll come. Maybe that will happen. We'll see if that happens. I don't know. All right, back to reading. Our differences, as huge as we make them out to be, are superficial and meaningless, and it's time we let them go. When you meet anyone, remember that remember that it is a why can't I say these words? Let's try this again. When you meet anyone, wow, this is weird. Remember that it is a holy encounter. As you see him, you will see yourself. As you treat him, you will treat yourself. As you think of him, you will think of yourself. You can change your relationship with anyone by simply sending them good thoughts. Anecdotal evidence. All we want, whether we are honeybees, this is what I've been saying. I've never said it quite like this before, but this is what I've been trying to say to people, and nobody's listening. Just like George Carlin said, nobody listens, nobody cares. Everybody just goes about their day, completely oblivious to what's happening. But here it is, all we want, whether we are honeybees, ponderosa pines, coyotes, human beings, or stars, is to love and be loved, to be accepted, cherished, and celebrated simply for being who we are. Is that so very difficult? Asks Derek Jensen, American author and environmental activist. Could someone read this quote and this whole passage to Stephen Miller, Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and the Republican Party, and the Democratic Party too? Can we read this to them? Can we force them? Can we make this a requirement of our government that once a year this must be read to everyone there and to every CEO in this country? And I'm just getting started. All we want, whether we are honeybees, ponderosa pines, coyotes, human beings, or stars, Jesus, is to love and be loved, to be accepted, cherished and celebrated simply for being who we are. Is that so very difficult? Yeah, but see, we all judge. We all fail to do this. We want others to treat us right, but we don't do it. That's our own hypocrisy, staring us down the face. My friend, whom I'll call Ginger, because that is not her name. That's so cute. Because that is not her name. That's why I will call you Ginger. Had a rocky relationship with her mother for years. This is wonderful. This is just wonderful. Finally, she decided that every night before falling asleep, she would send her mom blessings. Her mom, of course, had no idea she was doing this. To this day, Ginger has never told her mother that for about 6 months she spent a few minutes each evening I knew I was going to have trouble reading this. Each evening envisioning her getting all the things she ever wanted and seeing herself being happy about it. Happy about it, if you couldn't hear me. I honestly don't know how it happened, but our relationship changed. Now we're the best of friends. Wow, Ginger says. More anecdotal evidence. This is a great quote too, by the man who was talked about in Dead Poets Society. Someone I should read his writings. Explore your own higher latitudes. Be a Columbus to whole new continents within you. Opening new channels, not of trade, but of thought. Henry David Thoreau, American writer and philosopher. Best-selling author Martha Beck was once like most of us, friendly enough, trusting enough, but not about to go overboard. After all, she was a scientist, a Harvard pedigreed sociologist who needed facts to form any kind of conclusion. And the conclusion she came to, the same one most all of us come to on planet Earth, is that people are okay, but you don't want to get too involved. Especially not if you're at Harvard and trying to get your second graduate degree. Probably best to keep people at arm's length. Yeah, that's pretty much how we all are. As she described it in her wonderful book, Expecting Adam. Oh boy, this is going to be tough too. We go around like Queen Elizabeth, bless her heart, clutching our dowdy little accessories, avoiding the slightest hint of impropriety, never showing our real feelings or touching anyone else except through glove leather. Cute. But life pulled a fast one on Martha Beck. It gave her a son with Down syndrome, who she named Adam, who taught her that everything she thought she understood about the world is a big ruse, especially the part about not trusting other people. When she was pregnant with Adam, her husband, also a Harvard graduate student, traveled to Asia a lot, and she was left at home to cope with her demanding studies, their 2-year-old, and a pregnancy that was not going well. Fires, potential miscarriages, and ongoing pregnancy ailments drove her to wit's end. As she says, I felt like a load of gravel had been dumped on me. Every time she was about to snap, an angel, and I don't mean metaphorically, I wish she would have told us more about this, she doesn't. Well, kind of she does. Or an acquaintance she barely knew would show up with kind words, groceries, or some other assistance. Keep in mind that this is a woman who had to be on the edge of desperation for anything this woo-woo to get through. The edge of desperation for anything this woo-woo, anything this crazy to get through. She had long ago eschewed any notion of God and was sworn by education to follow the good old Baconian logic of refusing to believe anything until it was proven true. Nonetheless, a woman she barely knew showed up on her doorstep with groceries one morning when she was about to pass out. This one, the angel, an unseen force, appeared out of nowhere to guide her and her daughter through her smoke-filled apartment before it burned to the ground. She mentioned fires up there above. And she was able to see and talk to her husband, even though he was in Hong Kong and she was in Boston. And no, I don't mean by telephone. This was just blowing my mind at this point. I had already read enough, and now I'm reading this. This is just going crazy with me. What she came to realize is, against all odds, despite everything that works against it on this unpleasant, uncomfortable planet, mothering is here in abundance. You can always find it if you're smart enough and know where to look. Even if you aren't smart enough, it tends to show up, especially if you really need it. Says Beck, I have to jettison every sorrow, every terror, every misconception, every lie. That stands between my conscious mind and what I know in my heart to be true. I have expanded my reality from a string of solid facts as narrow, strong, and cold as a razor's edge to a wild chaos of possibility. The method. I love this quote. It's by Stephen Hawking, British theoretical physicist. What now appear as the paradoxes of quantum theory will seem just as common sense to our children's children. Oh, I pray that that be true. I won't live to see what our children's children have to say, but here's hoping that that is the future world. In this experiment, you're going to send a message to someone you know using the concept of non-locality. According to Laura Day, author of Practical Intuition, it's as easy as sending an email. The good thing about this experiment is you don't even have to leave your easy chair. The majority of your interactions with other humans occur in the non-physical realm. All those thoughts you think you're privately keeping to yourself, they're not really private. Oh, God. Okay. Since we're all connected, you might as well be bellowing them over an intercom. Subtly, everyone is getting the message anyway. I don't think we could talk about people we don't know. Other than people we interact with on YouTube. Like I know Nick and Lex a little bit. I've never met them. I know just JP. Never met him, but we've talked. So, people like that. I've never talked directly with Cassie from Popcorn in Bed. Really want to. I've talked to Elizabeth from The Charismatic Voice because I told her that I wrote those D&D novels because she's into D&D, and she was really intrigued. Unfortunately, she just doesn't have any time. But I sent her my books. I can only hope that one day she'll read them and like them. But it was so cool that she saw my comment and said she was very intrigued by this and really was interested. So I was so hoping that was going to do something. Because she's got 3 million subscribers, let alone that she's beautiful, married just had her second kid. Really cool girl. Very, very. If you've never watched The Charismatic Voice, even if you don't like music reaction channels, just check her out one time. She's interviewed famous musicians, and including Ren. And her interview with Ren was, wow. She's just amazing at what she does. She really is. We're all connected to this huge data bank, and we constantly exchange energy with everyone in our circle of influence and in smaller ways with every other being on the planet. Forget therapy. You can save all kinds of cash by simply changing the dialogue within your own mind. But be careful what you ask for. Sandra Ray, co-founder of Loving Relationship Training. Oh, let's start a company we'll call it Loving Relationship Training. What's it going to do? I don't know. And a former teacher of mine tells a funny story about communicating through the unseen energy data bank. She went to Leonard Orr, another one of my teachers, to find out, now this one I didn't follow. Let's see if I can follow it the second time I read it. To find out why she kept wrecking her car. She's wrecking her, okay. I thought it said why he kept wrecking her car. That's how I read it the first time. He told her to make a different intention in the form of an affirmation. She scoffed and said, "You mean to tell me that with nothing but an intention, I could even get men to call me on the telephone?" I'm like, what does that have to do with wrecking your car? What? Of course, he said. Try it. I can even get men to call me on the telephone, is what she asked. And he said, yeah, try it. She began sending this intention out into the FP. I now receive an abundant inflow of calls from men. Within 4 days, every single one of her old lovers called, some of whom she hadn't seen in months, some for years. Incredible as it sounds, she says, I began to receive calls during the night, wrong numbers from men I didn't even know. Needless to say, she changed that intention to one that worked. Here are the steps. Choose your target. Number 1, choose your target. While it's certainly possible to send a message to practically anyone, I suggest choosing someone you've already met. Bruce Rosenblum, professor of physics at the University of California, Santa Cruz, claims that once you've met someone and shaken that person's hand, you are forever entangled. Okay. Going to do that as soon as I finish this. Choose what kind of action or response you want. The more specific you can get, the better. Be very clear about your agenda. For my most recent experiment, I sent a message to my partner, Jim. Bring home a loaf of bread. Are you kidding me? She said this telepathically to him and it worked? Man, talk about making fantasy into reality. That's fantasy. 3, place your target in front of your mind's eye. Do I have to push my finger out? Anyway. 4, be with your target by embodying and experiencing your connection. Words are often an ineffective way to get a message across. Engage all your senses and believe in your message. To make it more effective and to add a little fun, shower your target with good thoughts. Send them incomparable blessings. Think about them winning the lottery, getting a date with Channing Tatum, winning a trip around the world. Getting a date with who the hell's Channing Tatum? I got to look that up. I think I probably know. I just can't make the connection right now. The lab report sheet, the principle, the 101 Dalmatians principle, the theory, you are connected to everything and everyone else in the universe. The question, can I send a message to someone without being in that person's presence? The hypothesis, if during the next 2 days I telepathically send a specific message to a specific person, I will get evidence that he or she received it. Time required 48 hours. We'll start with 48, see what happens. The approach. Okay, FP, I'm hearing the melody from the Twilight Zone playing in the background, but I'm willing to suspend judgment just this once to see if this might be one of those mysterious aspects of quantum physics. What say you? And then today's date and time, and I'm not going to bother with that. Don't need to. This is at bottom the only courage that is demanded of us, to have courage for the most strange, the most singular, and the most inexplicable that we may encounter. Rainer Maria Rilke, Bohemian Austrian poet. Austrian, were you in The Sound of Music? Couldn't resist. All right, so that's it. I am so going to do this right now. I hope all of you do this. And if it works, could you share in the comments? I want to hear this working everywhere. I would love, you have no idea how badly I want this. Well, you do. You already know that. You have an idea. But regardless, it doesn't matter. I've already been trying to do this for weeks now, but not specifically in this way. Trying to connect. Now I got to see if I really want to post this, because that was really hard for me to read. I don't know how that's going to look on video, but we'll see. If I don't care, and I shouldn't care, I'll just post it and leave it at that. Hope you all do this too. Hope this works. I'll talk to you all when I talk to you all. Bye-bye.